Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the 3-game NBA slates we have here on DraftKings for Thursday nights. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notification bell. I'll be going over my favorite spin-up plays, some mid-range options, and some value plays we can look at for tomorrow's 3-game slate. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button. Do appreciate it, and let's get into the slate breakdown. Before I get into the slate breakdown, another day of cashing on DraftKings to make that 3 in a row. So we're on a hot streak there. I will have my core play video out tomorrow morning. Hopefully we get some more news like Paul George, Nurkic news that could affect the whole slate. Hopefully we get that. So that should be out tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, Prize Picks, they added that 6-pick slip now for 25x. I did that today. Got 5 out of 5. The last one I got wrong was Vooch. 20 fantasy points at half. He only needed 31. He goes out in the second half. They get blown out. He only puts up 7 fantasy points the whole second half. Super frustrated about that. Would have made $125 from 5. Would have been so happy, but of course, another blowout, back-to-back nights for me there. But cash once again on DraftKings that make that 3 nights in a row. So let's continue that hot streak into tonight. Starting out with that first game, San Antonio versus the Kings. Johnson, Podol, Vassell. I think they all look like very solid plays there in their perspective. Price ranges, I prefer getting to Vassell, even though he's a little bit more score independent. Podol's coming off that huge game. But yeah, I think they all look really good there at their price range going against this Kings team. Excuse me. Trey Jones is more of a tournament play. He's just kind of there for me. He's kind of just floating around that 25 to 33 fantasy point mark. So if you want to go to him, you can. Don't love it. Don't hate it. In terms of value, Bassi was seeing about 15-ish minutes. He's foul prone, productive when he's out there. It's just, he's not seeing enough minutes to really pay off that price tag now that he's up to 4,400. Jeremy, seeing about 25-ish minutes. He looks okay at 4,300. Don't love that. Josh Richardson, it just, he's not getting enough minutes. He's very, score independent. And if he's not getting those minutes, he's not going to pay off 4,000. So I think he'd be my favorite play. Obviously very risky. But him and Bates Diop are the best value options on the Spurs team right now. Bates Diop seeing 31 minutes, 26. And he wasn't in that starting lineup versus Portland, so at 26 minutes, which you do like to see. He's decently productive off the bench, so I think those two would be my favorite value plays. Doug McDermott's just not been good this year. Don't think you need to force that. That's really it on the Spurs side. On the Kings side, the Kings guys are priced up, so it kind of makes the slate a little bit interesting. But Sabonis obviously is smash spot going against the Spurs here. We know his massive upside. 9,400. He's just kind of more of a contrarian play as a spend up option for me. Same thing with Fox. If I was going to get to one of their star players, it would definitely be Sabonis. I think he has a little bit safer of a floor and a higher ceiling. So I even for that, the $400 difference, I think it's worth it paying up for Sabonis over Fox. Herter, decent tournament option. Should see about 30 minutes. A little bit more if he's shooting well. He's just kind of there for me. He's a good shooter. He's been shooting great from 3 all season. So if you want to go to him, you can. Kind of score independent at times, as you can see the past 2 games, or the past 3 out of 4, 23, 29, 29, 37 in that one. So yeah, at 6K, I think he looks solid. Malik Monk is priced up to 5,200 now. I don't love that price tag on him because the minutes are kind of all over the place. If he's going to see 25 closer to 30 minutes, obviously that's a great price tag for him. But when he's, that possibility, they did blow out Brooklyn, so maybe they cut into his minutes a little bit. He should see at least 20. I'd say maybe 25. So I guess he's an okay play there for me at 5,200. Obviously, he has that potential of breaking the whole slate. So you can definitely look to him. I don't hate it. Harrison Barnes is just very, very contrarian play there at 4,900. Really don't think or see the need to get to him. If Keegan Murray's out, obviously, that's going to be more minutes for a guy like Keegan or for, Harrison Barnes. Trey Lyles should get more run off the bench, 3,500. He'd make a decent value play. David Mitchell, he's seen about 15-ish minutes. Don't think you need to force that. Terrence Davis had a monster game, got a ton of fourth quarter run. Don't think you need to force that either. He's seen about, 8 to 15 off the bench. It really just be, my interest would be in, if, Murray's out, would most likely be in Trey Lyles. And then maybe, a Herter or Malik Monk on to Brooklyn and Portland. For Brooklyn, KD at the top, 11.6. He's the most expensive player on the slate. Going to be a little bit hard to get to him unless some value opens up. but that should keep his ownership down to an okay number. We'll have to see if any value opens up to change that. But obviously, we know what we're getting from KD. They got blown out last game versus the Kings. So all of these guys' minutes and all their stats are just, terrible from the last game. So I do think that'll keep some people off of guys like Claxton, who I really like in the spot. Really like, Royce O'Neal. He's always a very safe play there at 5,300. I think those two would be my favorite plays alongside KD. If Ben Simmons is not on the minutes limit, I think you load up on him. He should be a very solid point per minute guy. As we saw kind of heading into when he got his knee injured, 28, 30, 35 and a half, he's really starting to pick it up. And then he hurt his knee, came back for a game, sat out a game, came back for a game, and now he's back for the past 2 games. So if he's good on the minutes limit, I love Ben Simmons at that price point. Mentioned O'Neal. Now to the guards. Joe Harris, he's just been brutal this year. The minutes have been there, and he's just been god-awful. If you want to take that shot that this is the game he turns up from 3, be my guess. But I really just prefer getting to one of these guards with, Seth Curry leading the way for me. Minutes, a little bit suspect, 23, 28, 24. So they're trending in the right direction. He's scoring dependent at times, but 4,500, I do like that price tag for him. Cam Thomas and Edmund Sumner, they're kind of the same play for me. I guess I'd prefer, Sumner just because he starts, so his minutes a little bit more secure. But yeah, I think they're both just there. People are going to flock to like Edmund Sumner's, box score the past few games. I really don't think he trusts that. I think Seth Curry is the best play out of those guards, and that's really it. On to Portland. Dame, I think he looks great here, 10,000. Getting a ton of minutes. He's scoring dependent at times, but, I just love him in the spot against Brooklyn, kind of one of those primetime matchups, him versus KD. I guess he scored decently, 26, 29, 22, 19, 22. We know he can go off for 41 real life points or even more. So yeah, at 10, I think people will be scared of that price tag for Dame. They're going to see Jeremy Grant, who's gone off the past 3 games, kind of flock to him over Dame, which I think is a huge mistake. If you want to ride that, hot streak with Grant, you can. I don't mind it. But I prefer getting to Lillard or Simons, 7,300. His price tags come down a little bit. Do really like that. The offense flows through him, Anthony and Dame. So I think those two look great. Grant, more of a secondary play for me. I think Nurkic looks great if he plays his normal amount of minutes, which sometimes are all over the board. But coming off that injury, he only played 15. It'll be interesting to see if he's good to go. And should see that if he sees his normal minutes, love him at that price point. Josh Hart's just there for me, 6,500. Don't love it, don't hate it. Prefer getting to the other guys over Josh Hart. Winslow, if he's back, should see 25 minutes. He's an okay point per minute guy, 4,800. That really does it. Shannon Sharp getting some minutes, but just very score independent. Don't think you need to go down to him. And that does it for Portland. On to the last game, Detroit versus the Clippers. This might be the game of the night in terms of getting your value from and stacking, depending on that Paul George news. But as of right now, we know Cade Cunningham's out. So the offense is going to, kind of revolve around Ivy and Bogdan, with, Bagley, Hayes, Bay being kind of those secondary pieces. So starting off with Ivy, 6,900. I think he's just priced right for me. Does have a little bit upside at that price, but he's kind of all over the board. As we saw, he did almost have 2 50-50 fantasy point games back to back. But for 6,900, I just think he looks okay for me. Don't love it, don't hate it. I do prefer getting to Bojan. The reason why is he's just a really good shooter, and he's been getting to the free throw line recently, and his peripheral stats, which he's usually not good at because he's more of a shooter, but he's taken on that role since Cade's out, is kind of being a little bit of a point forward. 6,200. I think it's a great price tag for him. As you can see, the past 3 games, 5+ rebounds, 3+ assists. He's just been very, very solid. 25 points, 28, 18. He is scoring dependent at times, but I just love the fact that he's, really picked up the peripheral stat department for, Cade being out. And he's just good price, good shooter, gets to the free throw line. Really like him at 6,200. Bagley's just an okay secondary play. It'll be interesting to see who they start at center now that Isaiah Stewart's out. So maybe, Bagley does get some more run. He's an okay point per minute guy. He looks decent there, 5,900. Sadiq Bey came off the bench. It'll be interesting if he does again. I don't mind taking a shot here on Sadiq Bey. He's usually a decent point per minute guy. You know, he's been very bad this season, but at 5,600, he does have that ability to break the slate by shooting, 8 of 15 from three. So I do have some interest there in Sadiq Bey. Killian Hayes, I guess he's just there for me. You know, he should be very popular, 5,000. Should see around 30 minutes if he's not doing very bad. But we know at times with Killian Hayes the past few years, he can go out there and play horrendous. So at 5,000, even though it's a great price tag, it is still super risky for Killian Hayes. But yeah, he looks decent. I think I prefer getting to Alec Burks over Killian Hayes. He only saw 17 minutes, but he was still super, super productive. I think, we should see in that, I'd say closer to 20-minute mark. Anything above that is great. So at 4,500, I do like taking that shot on Alec Burks. And, maybe Killian Hayes doesn't do that well. Jalen Duren only saw 19 minutes. We'll see, who starts alongside Bagley. If they go a little bit smaller, if they bring in Jalen Duren. Obviously, the Clippers aren't that big, so I do think they'll go a little bit smaller. Probably bring back in Sadiq Bey to the starting lineup. So I think Duren looks great off the bench. Should split that center run with Bagley if they go small, or if they go a little bigger and he starts. I think he looks great either way. 4,100, solid point per minute guy, double guy, decent at getting blocks. So yeah, I really like him at 4,100. Depending on what they do with the starting lineup. Isaiah Livers should see some run off the bench. A little bit too scoring dependent for me, but 3,300, you can definitely throw him in there. Hamadou, kind of the same thing. Prefer Livers over Hamadou. But yeah, it kind of just depends on the starting lineup for me. And then moving on to the Clippers. Huge news, Paul George. So if he's in, let's just assume he's in. He looks fantastic, 10-2. Should be very popular. I think Zubac looks great, 6,400. Minutes are just the issue with Zubac. If you get 30 minutes, he should be a very solid guy. If you get less than that, he's going to screw you. Morris is just there for me. Don't love him, don't hate him. Kind of just limited to about 30 fantasy points per game. While kind of priced up to that point where it's like, he looks okay. He's kind of in that Malcolm Brogdon role. You're going to play about 25 minutes. Very, very high usage off the bench. Does great at getting the peripheral stats. It's just, at that price tag, in the limited minutes, I just don't see the need to play him in a tournament setting. It's not like he's going to go out there and get you 30, 35 minutes. So I think it's just priced about right for me. Reggie, tournament option, but he's been brutal this year. Same thing with Norman Powell. It really comes down to if Paul George is in. If he's in, it's really just him, Zubac, and I guess that's really it for me. I mean, maybe you could take a shot on Powell or Jackson. Obviously, if he's out, you're going to want to load up on these Clipper guys like Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Trey Mann, Luke Kennard if he's in, are good to go. Maybe even guys like Amir Coffey get into the rotation. So what to see on that. But yeah, a lot of the value right now is going to come from the Detroit side. And then from there, we'll have to wait on the news for Nurk. We'll have to wait on the news for Paul George. It really kind of shakes up the whole slate. I think my favorite game to stack would be that Brooklyn and Portland game, followed by San Antonio and the King game. Detroit, I would say, I think it looks good only if Paul George is out in terms of like game stacking. But we'll have to see. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button, subscribe, turn that notification bell. And I'll see you guys in my core play video tomorrow. I guess I'll throw in a few more plays for you guys here. Really like Simon's there. And then who else do I like right now? Oh, Bogdan. So we'll have to see. Let's just throw Duren in too. So you'll start the lineup off. This is kind of the direction I'm looking for tomorrow's night slate. We'll have to wait on the news, but Simons, I think he looks great at that price point. I think the offense should start flowing through him and Damon once again, and not Jeremy Grant. Bogdan at that price looks very solid. Duren, he should see a ton more minutes with that Isaiah Stewart injury. And Alec Burks, I think he just makes for a very solid contrarian play there at 4,500. We're kind of relying on Killian Hayes, but Killian Hayes is not the best, so Alec Burks is a great point per minute guy off the bench. So yeah, guys, once again, hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.